What's up, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. Got another video for you guys tonight. This is actually going to be my last video for the day until Saturday. Actually, it's almost morning. It's 11:44 right now, and I'm just going to talk about Anthony Mundine. Anthony Mundine was knocked out by Garth Woods, a fighter from the Australian Contender Series. Was knocked out in the 5th round. Yesterday I had woken up. I looked on, I checked my subscriptions, and I saw Rooster for Life had a video on it. Just showing the knockout, and I took a look at the fight. I took a look at multiple clips of the fight, and just looking at the fight, I was looking at the ropes. The ropes seemed to be very slick, and they were moving, and Garth Woods doesn't really seem to me to be a world-class fighter. I don't think he's a guy that will venture outside of Australia. I'm just judging by how he looked. But Anthony Mundine is the type of fighter that I thought would have possibly someday would have ventured outside of Australia, came to the United States, and would fight in the United States possibly, because he was actually considered a possible opponent for Miguel Cotto. For his WBA light middleweight championship. There were talks about that fight happening over the summer, actually. I think he was supposed to be in some type of eliminator match with Ryan Waters, a match that nobody even knew about. And to be honest, when it happened in, I believe, like July, either June or July, I actually didn't even know Anthony Mundine was in the fight. And I checked the fight schedule just about about 2-3 times a week, every week. I checked the fight schedule, and I didn't even see a fight with Anthony Mundine, and nobody really knew about it until it was posted on Boxing Scene that Anthony Mundine had a fight, and it was against Ryan Waters, and he won the matchup by knockout. But nobody knew who Ryan Waters was, or even over here, and I keep up with all boxing. But Anthony Mundine, I was asked to make a video on Anthony Mundine from Dark Muse, support my channel for the longest time. So I decided just to make this video because I was typing him a message, and the message was going to be a very long message because I get very extensive with the messages, and just talk talk about a lot of stuff that maybe I should just cover in the video, because I think it would be easier for me to just cover in the video than write the long message to Dark Muse and kind of share it with everybody, because I thought I was bringing up some decent points. Anthony Mundine, a lot of people criticize the talent that he's fought in his career, and one thing that I do give to him is that at least earlier in his career he was facing some quality talent. He was facing some good opposition early in his career. Right now that victory over Danny Green is better than ever because of Danny Green's recent victory over BJ Flores, his victory over Roy Jones about a year ago yesterday, or today in some places. And actually Danny Green holds a victory over Manny Siaka, a fighter who actually holds a victory over Anthony Mundine. And and I'm not even going to get started on that debacle with Paul Briggs, so that's out of the picture right now. But Danny Green is pretty much on top of his game right now. After and Anthony Mundine holds a victory over him, so that victory is better than it was a couple years ago now, because Danny Green is starting to get a little bit more exposure in the boxing world. But something that will stand out to me with Anthony Mundine is he did move up fast. His career started in 2000, and by 2001, like 10 fights into his career, he's already fighting. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. No, I'm probably pronouncing the name wrong. Sven Otke, I believe it was. Fought him very early in his career. He was about 25 when he fought him. About 10 fights in. He was the IBF super middleweight champion, was undefeated, and didn't have the highest knockout ratio, and Aki knocked him out. I'm not sure if it was the last knockout of his career or not. I'm not too sure about that, but he knocked him out with a right hand. Right, I believe it was right through his defensive guard. But Anthony Mundine did look strong in the bout. He looked strong, but in the matchup, you see things in Anthony Mundine that you shouldn't see from a professional boxer, but he got away with it due to athleticism. I think it brought him this far in his career was athleticism. A lot of people call him a poor man's Roy Jones, and I understand that because the athleticism that he had. He was a former rugby player, and he transitioned over to boxing, and something that was missing from Anthony Mundine is pretty much the amateur experience that most boxers have. He only had 4 amateur fights. I believe he was a teenager when he did these amateur fights, and with these 4 amateur fights, he didn't obtain the experience that a lot of professional boxers have gotten fighting in the amateur ranks, and he didn't, develop any type of ring IQ or style or any type of instinct, because in the amateurs, a lot of fighters kind of find their stride and they develop their own style, and they develop a ring IQ. And Anthony Mundine, I don't think developed that. I think everything that Anthony Mundine has done everything was based on really was his athleticism. Just look at the movements. Some of the stuff that he did, how he moved, and the body language that he had, like how he would throw punches out of range, or he would step out of range after throwing a punch. Sometimes, he would he would throw the jab, and he wasn't setting up anything, or he would throw the jab, and he would throw the right hand, and when he threw the right hand, he was out of position at times. And this is early in his career, and he kind of slowly honed that style down a little bit, but just by looking at him at times, look at Anthony Mundine 10 fights into his career, and look at a top-notch amateur 10 fights into their professional career, an amateur that makes that jump into the professional ranks. Say you have an amateur with about 300 fights under his belt, and if you look at him sometimes, at some of these amateur fighters with a lot of fights under their belt, they have a very calm temperament, and they're not as hesitant as Anthony Mundine was early in his career. And later on in his career, Anthony Mundine has faced, and I'll be honest, he's faced some very low-level fighters as the last couple years. I guess you could say since Danny Green maybe. He's faced some very low-level guys, and to be quite honest, I think that Anthony Mundine, I think he does have potential to come back, but with the right person. I think he was training with Freddie Roach. I could be mistaken. Maybe Freddie Roach could teach him a thing or two, maybe, for honing his skills down. But I had a video about a month ago about second-generation boxers, and Anthony Mundine is a second-generation boxer. And he's one of those guys that basically talked about that didn't really need to fight. He pretty much picked up some boxing gloves and did it for the hell of it. And to be quite honest, he was talking about fighting Miguel Cotto, and just imagine now how a fight with Miguel Cotto would have been. A Mundine versus Cotto matchup. Just imagine how that matchup could have been. And actually, I believe, and I could be mistaken here, but I believe Mundine was even a name brought up on Pavlov's list of fighters about a year or two ago of who to face. Just imagine if he would have stepped up and he fought some of these guys who were high up, and Kelly Pavlov was the top guy at that time. But something that Anthony Mundine lacks to me is a ring IQ and a boxing instinct. I believe that those are two things that he generally lacks. And with the boxing instinct, that just comes that comes from experience, but that lack of amateur experience, doesn't help him at all. But overall, I do think that Anthony Mundine can come back, but I think it's going to be, he's going to need the right trainer. He's going to need the right trainer, somebody that can do something with his athleticism and incorporate it into boxing ability, and find a way for those to correlate with each other. And not only that though, and Darth Muse brought this up, fighting low level competition could have done something to him. Maybe he's fighting down to level of competition, or maybe he's at that level. Who knows? But we haven't really seen him tested against these A-level guys because he has not been outside of, he's never came across the United States. And I'm not saying that the United States have the best fighters, because there's some good fighters in Puerto Rico, Mexico, even Canada, and that pretty much came out mean. But hell, there's good fighters everywhere. But I think Anthony Mundine should have tried to come to the United States for a big payday, much earlier than recent. And also something that also stands out with Anthony Mundine is trying to be the first fighter to move down in weight and become a champion in 3 weight classes moving down. I don't think that's going to happen. Not with Anthony Mundine, say the most. Especially with a stacked 154-pound division, I don't think it's going to happen. Unless he moves down to 147, and that's not going to happen. So anyway, guys, that was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.